Top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. A Twitter account that goes by the name Catpin tweeted, "When's Chantelle Cameron versus Kaylee Rice? Thought it would have been announced by now." To that, Chantelle Cameron herself, unified super lightweight Chantelle Cameron,
Unified super lightweight champion.
she added, "Me too. She too expected the fight to be announced by now, and you know what? We're a full month into the year of 2022, and it still hasn't been announced. I heard some rumors, some rumblings that there might be trouble in paradise in reference to that fight, though because they were rumors, I treated them as such. You don't know until you know, but there might be some substance to those rumors. This lends credence to them. I don't know what the issue could be, if there even is an issue.
Though usually when there is an issue, it involves money.
We've been talking a lot about Bob Arum's comments in reference to women's boxing, and the comments that he made were comments that he made in reference to the United States. That's where he would be talking about that demographic, those metrics here in America, but abroad. It's a different ballgame. Abroad, there are more options for a unified champion like Kaylee Rice than just facing Chantelle Cameron. Oh, the Chantelle Cameron fight is the very best fight you can make at 140 pounds, but for Kaylee Rice, it's not the only fight. It's not the only option, not the only opportunity. Need I remind you that Sky Sports and Boxer have their own stable of Valkyries that are going to need opportunities when the time comes. And if by some chance this fight doesn't materialize between Chantelle and Kaylee, Kaylee can always take her business elsewhere, over to Sky, over to Boxer.
They've got April Hunter, they've got Georgia O'Connor.
You have to use your imagination here, but in women's boxing, the fighters fluctuate in weight a lot more than the guys do. Someone as young as a Georgia O'Connor, for example, who may have debuted within the middleweight limit, could see herself dropping down to
154.
junior middleweight, welterweight, hell, maybe even as low as 140 pounds, maybe even as low as junior welterweight.
140 pounds.
Where Kaylee Rice is a unified champion, that's a genuine possibility for a 21-year-old fighter that just started her career like a Georgia O'Connor. You think about the fighters that are already there.
At or around there.
At or around junior welterweight or welterweight. Boxer's got April Hunter.
Campaigns as a welterweight.
Essentially what I'm getting at is they have fighters they're grooming at or around these weights, at or around these divisions, and for a fighter like Kaylee Rice, that presents a unique opportunity that wasn't always there for a female boxer, a female champion, a unified champion like a Kaylee Rice, to where she's not limited to just doing business with Matchroom. There are other opportunities out there for her. Kaylee Rice not being a Matchroom fighter, not being under contract with them, the way that Chantelle Cameron and Jessica McCaskill, Ramla Ali, Katie Taylor, so on and so forth. Kaylee Rice is not an according to Hoyle Matchroom fighter. And if for some reason things dematerialize with Chantelle, she can see about negotiating some kind of a situation between herself and Boxer, Sky Sports. I mean, think about it this way. Who expected Natasha Jonas's next fight to be a junior middleweight contest for that WBO title? But it's happening, ain't it?
She's going all the way from lightweight up to junior middleweight.
Months ago, who expected news to break that Clarissa Shields would enter into a contract with Boxer? Who expected that Clarissa Shields would be one of the first fighters they signed?
Theater of the unexpected.
I'm just giving it to you straight because it's the only way I know how to give it to you. And if by some chance there's trouble in paradise between the Chantelle Cameron people and the Kaylee Rice people, and that fight don't materialize, one option for Kaylee is to see about doing business with Sky Sports and Boxer, see about taking those belts over there, what they're worth to them.
Finding out what they're worth to them.
I would much rather see the fight between Chantelle and Kaylee, if we're going to get into preferences, and what I'd rather see a goddamn fight. I'd rather see a boxing match because I'm a boxing fan, but if things don't work out between Kaylee and Chantelle, this is a genuine possibility. In heavyweight news, Bob Arum is rooting for Usyk, looks forward to negotiating undisputed title bout in-house without Hearn. Eddie Hearn. Usyk is technically signed to Hearn's Matchroom, but it is not clear when their deal expires. Should the Ukrainian beat Joshua again, Arum seems to believe that Hearn would be out of the picture, paving the way for negotiations for the undisputed fight to occur in-house.
Right now, if Usyk beats Joshua again, Hearn has nothing to say about it, right? It's only if Joshua beats Usyk that Hearn is back in the picture. There's no reason to talk to Hearn about that fight at the end of the year. We'll talk. Instead, to Aegis about that fight. It all will be done in the house.
Speaking of talking to Aegis, why doesn't anybody ask Aegis why he blames Tyson Fury for the fight not happening?
While old Fish Eyes Frank Warren might be doing the rounds with the pundits, telling his version of the story, his account of events, why aren't those same pundits asking Aegis Climas
Why not?
why he blamed Tyson Fury, mentioned him by name, as the cause for the undisputed fight not happening? I didn't forget that Aegis Climas pointed the blame at him.
Everybody's got their version of the story.
Their own version of the story as to what caused the undisputed fight between Usyk and Fury not to happen. Everybody's got their own version. Eddie's got his, Frank and Bob, they've got theirs. What's Aegis's? Because Aegis seems to blame Tyson Fury for the fight having not happened.
The blame game, ladies and germs.
Bob Arum's not off base. He's not wrong. If Anthony Joshua don't get those belts back, Eddie Hearn may not be back in the picture, and that does make the situation less complicated. It is a less complicated situation when two major outfits, two major promoters that have major platform deals.
When there were two big outfits involved, they're both going to have their own best interests in mind.
It really isn't one way, though. If Usyk is in fact a free agent, beyond the Anthony Joshua rematch, should he win that rematch, beyond that, if Usyk's a free agent, that does make it a less complicated situation. And Bob Arum, the people over there at Top Rank, they know Aegis Climas. They've worked with him before in reference to Vasyl Lomachenko. They could see themselves working with him again for the Usyk versus Fury fight, provided Usyk wins this Anthony Joshua rematch. This Anthony Joshua rematch that a lot of people are picking Anthony Joshua to lose. Same way they picked him to lose the Andy Ruiz rematch.
They're doing that again here with Usyk.
Too soon to tell. Anthony Joshua has seemed very gung-ho in reference to that rematch, saying that he's going to become a three-time heavyweight champion. He wants those belts back. He intends to be more aggressive. That's the surface stuff. That much is obvious, though actually executing such a plan, that's another matter entirely. We don't know a whole lot about Anthony Joshua's corner situation, who's going to be preparing him for this rematch. We just know he's in the market for a new trainer. He wants to change some things.
For me, we're too far out from these fights to know what the fuck is going to happen.
Look at how quickly Chocolatito versus Estrada 3 became Chocolatito versus Martinez. Look at how quickly Quadras versus Rumvisai 2 became Quadras versus Rodriguez.
Things can happen. Things can go wrong.
Everything that Bob is talking about is contingent upon Tyson Fury beating Dillian Veit, assuming that fight even happens, and Alexander Usyk beating Anthony Joshua. And this far out from a fight, when we ain't even got an exact fight date, an official announcement as to when exactly the fight will be taking place, the fights will be taking place, and where. This far out.
Oh, fucking knows.
What we do know is that Bob Arum, like Frank Warren, wants to keep Eddie Hearn and Matchroom out of the picture. What we do know is they want to one-up and upstage that guy. And if Alexander beats Anthony Joshua for a second time, well, that's a critical blow for Matchroom's hold on the heavyweight division, the heavyweight scene, the hold they've had over it over the years, having 3 of the 4 alphabet titles on that side of things.
Anthony Joshua can't get those belts back. Hearn is out of the picture.
For those out there who seem to have a stake in Eddie Hearn and Matchroom's failures, they relish the opportunity to see Bob Arum, to see Frank Warren one-upping that guy. Now, what their stake exactly is in that situation and that professional rivalry between them, your guess is as good as mine. It doesn't exactly benefit me as a consumer.
And it don't benefit them as consumers either.
But there are those out there who relish the opportunity to see Bob Arum, see Frank Warren upstaging and one-upping Eddie Hearn. Make of that what you will. As far as what that could mean for the state of the division and the state of the weight class, well,
the silver lining there would be there's no cross-promotional or cross-network politics that would delay the undisputed title fight.
That would be the silver lining for a boxing fan that aspires to see an undisputed heavyweight champion crowned in this era. That if Fury makes it past Dillian and Usyk makes it past AJ and Matchroom's no longer in the picture, there are no cross-promotional, cross-network politics to get in the way of the undisputed title fight. I will say
it is a far less complicated situation when 2 major promotional outfits aren't involved.
And he already has a working relationship with Aegis Climas, thus the fight really would be easier to make if it happens that way. Just in keeping with the theme of all things heavyweight, Frank Warren says Fury versus Usyk fell apart when Anthony Joshua asked for an extra $5 million.
We gotta get all sides of the story here. That's what we gotta do.
The deal would involve Anthony Joshua receiving a step-aside fee to move away from his contracted rematch with Usyk. The amount reportedly was $15 million. On the other side, Dillian Whyte would have to receive a step-aside, reportedly, of $5 million to move away from his mandatory fight with Fury. However, last Thursday, it was confirmed that Fury versus Usyk was dead in the water. Fury moved forward with an ordered purse bid for his mandatory fight with Dillian Whyte, and Warren secured the promotional rights with a record-breaking $42 million bid. According to Warren, the Fury versus Usyk negotiations fell apart when Joshua requested an additional $5 million. It's all irrelevant, and I don't particularly care what Eddie Hearn said. Eddie Hearn says a lot of things, and he's part of the problem why these things don't get over the line, Warren told Talk Sport. A year ago, when we were trying to put together a fight between Joshua and Tyson, every week he was saying, it's done, the contracts are being issued, despite the fact we all signed an agreement not to make any statements until it was done. As far as Tyson was concerned, it dragged on. When Joshua asked for an extra $5 million, he said enough is enough, and that was it. He said, I'm not interested, he's too greedy, and that was enough. He's a champion. Tyson's not beholden to Anthony Joshua. Him and Usyk wanted to get it on. Both of them wanted to get it on. But you had two people in the middle. One was suing the WBC and White, and the other one was asking for more and more money. And it's funny how things work in Frank Warren's mind. In Frank Warren's mind, Tyson Fury is not beholden to Anthony Joshua, but Anthony Joshua is not beholden to Tyson Fury.
It's a two-way street.
The guys you see here today criticizing Anthony Joshua for supposedly holding up the undisputed title fight, according to Frank Warren anyway.
Right.
The guys you see angry at Anthony Joshua for supposedly holding up the undisputed title fight are the same guys who were criticizing him for even considering stepping aside. Those guys.
If he steps aside, they criticize him. If he doesn't, they criticize him.
Pay attention.
If he steps aside, they criticize him. If he doesn't, they criticize him.
There's no appeasing those people because those people don't make any fucking sense.
Why would they? They're getting their information from Frank Warren, who doesn't make any fucking sense.
They're too stupid to realize it. What they don't realize is, regardless of who you ask about this situation, whether it's Eddie Hearn, Aegis Climas, or Frank Warren,
There's one constant in every version of this story.
there's one common denominator. One thing all these different versions of the story have in common. And what they have in common is that it was Tyson Fury that walked away.
Eddie Hearn says that Tyson Fury was trying to fight in a tune-up fight in March. He wasn't trying to fight Usyk.
Aegis Climas said that it was Tyson Fury that was holding up that wagon, and that talk is cheap. That's what Aegis Climas said.
Whereas what Frank is saying is that Tyson Fury got fed up and walked away.
That Anthony Joshua requested an additional $5 million to step aside, at which point Tyson Fury got fed up, though I don't know why, since it's not his money. He's not the one financing the fight. This proposed step-aside offer wasn't coming from Bob Arum, wasn't coming from Frank Warren. It was coming from the Saudis, who were willing to bankroll the step-aside fee to make the undisputed title fight happen. And apparently, because Anthony Joshua wanted $5 million, according to Frank, Tyson Fury had enough and decided to walk away. So it don't matter what version of the story I listen to, they got one thing in common. Tyson Fury was the one that walked away.
That's the common denominator in every version of this story.
And yet it's Anthony Joshua that some guys want to criticize. When he was considering stepping aside, they were criticizing him. And when that didn't work, when he ended up not stepping aside, they criticized him for that. Tyson Fury, by all accounts, is the one that walked away from the undisputed title fight. Yet once again, it's Anthony Joshua that gets the criticism.
Oh, Anthony Joshua can't do nothing right for those guys. That much is obvious.
Neither can Eddie Hearn. I said it before and I'll say it again. Had Anthony Joshua stepped aside, I wouldn't have had a problem with that because that would have made the undisputed title fight happen. That was my issue with Deontay Wilder's arbitration. And it's funny that Frank Warren gives that account of events almost a year ago when it wasn't just Eddie Hearn saying that the fight was done, you know.
Remember this?
Hey there, Tyson Fury, the Gypsy King. Got some massive news for you all, guys. I've just got off the phone from Prince Khalid of Saudi Arabia. He told me this fight's a 100% on. August 14th, 2021, summertime. All eyes of the world will be on the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And I cannot wait, repeat, cannot wait to smash Anthony Joshua on the biggest stage of all times. This is going to be the biggest sporting event ever to grace the planet Earth. Do not miss it. All eyes on us. Peace out. God bless. See you all in Saudi!
Seems almost like ancient history now that Tyson Fury himself was providing confirmation that he would go on to fight Anthony Joshua. That video came to us by way of Fight Hype TV the day before the arbitrator ruled in Deontay Wilder's favor, right on time to get in the way of the undisputed title fight then. See, then,
The reason the undisputed title fight didn't happen then was because of Fury's situation with Wilder.
the fight was all but done according to none other than Tyson Fury himself. Not Anthony Joshua, not Eddie Hearn, no. According to Tyson Fury himself. And the day after,
Right after.
went on camera and said as much himself. The arbitrator ruled in Wilder's favor. What are you going to tell me? That's Eddie Hearn's fault or Anthony Joshua's fault?
We had a day in 2022.
It doesn't matter who you ask about it, whether it's Eddie Hearn, Egis Klimas, or Frank Warren. The common denominator in every version of the story is that it was Tyson Fury that walked away from the undisputed title fight. Except this time, it wasn't with Anthony Joshua. It was with Alexander Usyk, who isn't characteristically involved in these kinds of he said, she said situations. Tyson Fury, however,
There's always something with this guy. There's always something with Tyson Fury.
it can never be simple with Tyson Fury, and if you've been paying attention, it never is. Though per a tweet from Michael Benson, as Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte went to purse bids and Alexander Usyk versus Anthony Joshua 2 is already the result of a rematch clause, there will be no further rematch clauses in either fight. Assuming both take place as expected, the winners will be free to do whatever they want.
No more handpicks.
No more tune-up fights, no more detours, no more diversions, distractions.
Right now, we're one fight away from an undisputed title fight at heavyweight.
And I am confident that Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk will take place, though when it comes to Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte, not so much. Though, if it does or doesn't, all the same. Undisputed is on the horizon.
Barring any unforeseen circumstances.
Illness or injury, we are on the eve of the undisputed heavyweight title fight.